I know we have a lot to cover, so if you want to start, the remaining two who are driving from Philly will just squeeze in the back when they get here.
That's fine. If everyone else is, if Jake's ready.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna close it.
Yes,
I'm gonna
perfect,
leave it on crack for
perfect.
them to come in.
Well, welcome back. It feels like a long time since I was here, so I'm glad to be back. We'll have 2 hours together today with a short break between hour 1 and 2. I want, though, to go back to where we left off last time. And before we do that, I want to just sort of do a really, really quick summarization, just some summary points to reconnect you. Okay? Remember, why we're here. Emotional intelligence is just as important, some argue more, than our IQ, the intellectual quotient. Okay? Unlike our intellectual quotient, if you remember I said this last time, which rarely changes, there's not a whole lot we can do to grow or evolve our IQ. That number stays pretty fixed and stable. We are fortunate that the region of the brain where emotional intelligence occurs is highly malleable. So we can grow and evolve emotional intelligence. And today's session and our session next month, lots of tools and strategies that you can use to start to create those new neural pathways in the brain so that emotional intelligence within you is strengthened like musculature. So that's the good news about our emotional intelligence. Remembering the 5 qualities of what makes for an emotionally intelligent person. The first being self-awareness. Remembering that self-awareness is the most important quality. When you don't have self-awareness, you cannot expect to have any of the other qualities. It is the foundation. Self-regulation or self-management, right? And that's really about how do we avoid flying off the handle? Do we have a good command over our emotional states? Do we know how to conduct ourselves when we're in the presence of someone who's really heated, really aggressive, somewhat out of control? In other words, can I contain myself? And do I have the strategies and skills to do that? Motivation, but a different kind of motivation. And we'll get to this, I hope, at the very end of today's session, which is, what does it mean to be intrinsically motivated? So that I can come to work, I can show up in my life and not have to rely upon external forces, factors, people, circumstances to light a fire under my butt and get things done. Empathy, we'll go into empathy next time, right? Key quality for emotional intelligence. When you are leading and managing, empathy increasingly is showing up as one of the number 1 qualities that you need to possess to lead and manage effectively. But training in empathy is important because most of us don't know what it is. We think we know what it is, but we're going to dive deep into what does it mean to be empathetic. And I'm actually going to give you scripts that you can start using so that you can start actually communicating in a way where empathy is not only expressed, but it's felt by the other person. When somebody is truly empathetic with me, it doesn't matter if it's a professional situation or a personal situation. I recognize it, I feel it, I appreciate it. It feels like a gift because it's so rare. All right? And the 5th quality that makes for an emotionally intelligent person is having strong social skills. We could spend an entire year on what it means to have strong social skills. But what I will highlight next time is, what does it mean to be a person who shows up in an interaction, who shows up in a room, who shows up to make a presentation and has a tremendous sense of presence? Again, presence increasingly is becoming more and more important because so few of us are actually present. All right? So those are the 5 qualities of what makes for emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, intrinsic motivation, empathy, and really strong social skills. So the last time we met, we talked about what it means to be, or what a social or a self-aware person actually looks like, how they conduct themselves. And we started looking at a tool that you can use to help you to cultivate a stronger sense of self-awareness. There's all kinds of things we can do, but I wanted to introduce you to this one tool, and this is why. If you remember, it is the Whole Health Karen that was created by Dr. Lissa Rankin, who wrote a book called Mind Over Medicine. She was really interested in understanding why people get sick in the first place. And you know this, right? That so much of our sickness and the reasons that we find ourselves under the weather or the immune system compromised is related to stress. And it's related to stress because we have not tended to really key and important areas of our lives. And so she's out in nature and she's noticing these Karens everywhere. And I like this image because I was in Sedona last November, and the Karens are actually built as trail markers. So as you're winding through the red rocks, you don't get lost because you always know there's a Karen there that's going to get you up the mountain and then back down from the canyon. In other words, they're guideposts. And it's a wonderful analogy because I can think about my life as this Karen, and I can always go back to my own guidepost. And I can go through the 10 stones that she identifies on this Karen. It's in your packet if you want to take a look at it right now. And I can say to myself, what am I not tending to here? Because these stones are intimately, interdependently linked. If I'm off in one area, I'm going to be off in all other areas. Okay? So the analogy of the Karen is important. It helps me to find my way back home, my way back to health and balance. And the Karen is also important because what we know about them. Sometimes we see them, you see them a lot in places like Ireland, near water. Gushing water can be in the presence of a Karen and it won't topple if it was built properly. They can withstand all kinds of weather without toppling. So what we want to think about at another level is, to what degree is my life such that I'm not falling apart when a problem arises, when there's sort of life chaos brewing around me? Is my Karen stable? So the last time we met, we just got to that first stone, the physical. In your handout, there is a place, and I really would like for you to use this on your own time. There is a place for you to answer this question, right? I am at my best physically when? And all I ask you to do is to name 3 things. If you remember last time, Tina said she is at her best physically when she gets enough sleep. What were the other 2 things?
Eat 3 meals.
Eats 3 meals.
Exercise.
I think no gluten, I might have said.
Oh.
I might have said exercise.
Yeah, eats gluten-free, exercise. Now, all of those things make sense for us, but maybe the sleep part isn't as important to you. I know that as I got older, the sleep part is really important to me. You know, it wasn't when I was in my 20s. It wasn't important at all. But what makes the most sense for you? Really use this worksheet. But I want to remind you of something I said last time that we didn't get to. When we think about the physical, our physical health and well-being, we also want to include in that our cognitive well-being and our emotional well-being. What do I mean by cognitive well-being? Increasingly, we are finding that individuals are suffering from cognitive impairment that is related to stress, cognitive impairment that is related to emotional overwhelm. And the phrase that we use is being emotionally hijacked. So something happens that gets you really charged up, really upset. Your body is producing the stress hormones because it's ready to prepare you to fight, it's ready to prepare you to flee, it's ready to prepare you to freeze, all of which takes tremendous energy. And the brain is not separate from all of that. the brain too starts to almost marinate in the stress hormones. This is what it means to be emotionally hijacked. And I may have talked about this example last time. In another training, I had a manager say to me, and remind me if I told you the story, he was talking about his boss, the person that he needs to report to. And his boss has a lot of passion, and I know this guy. He's got a lot of passion and a lot of drive. But when he's interacting with you, he's right in your face. And the passion for what he does feels like aggression. And so this manager said, when he is in my face with all of his passion, what he wants to see happen, or maybe sometimes it's coming through as, you need to do X, Y, or Z differently or better, he gets emotionally hijacked. Stressed out because it feels so aggressive. It's right in his face. And he said, I am a smart person. I think I do my job well, but in that moment, I cannot even think straight. And when I can't think straight, I can't even find the words, the appropriate words to come out to respond to him in a way where I appear to be someone who is smart and knows how to do his job well. So think about people and situations that you find yourself in where you literally feel cognitively impaired. I can't find the words because I've been emotionally hijacked. My brain is just marinating, floating in the stress hormone. This is what it means to really tend to your cognitive well-being. Or I'm sitting through a training and all of this stuff is coming in and I leave and 4 hours later, I'm having trouble remembering. So it can show up as memory issues. And the memory issues doesn't necessarily mean that you're struggling with, some sort of serious memory problem. It can mean there's just too much coming in. It's information overwhelmed. Or it's a form of being informationally hijacked. And then there is brain fog. And I think I said to you last time, brain fog isn't just, I don't know where I set my keys down. Brain fog is, where are my keys? I'm frantic, I'm running around looking for the keys. Where are the keys? And I look down and they're in my hand. Or, where are my sunglasses? Right? Have you ever done this? Mm-hmm. You're crazy. Where are my sunglasses? They're on your head. Mm-hmm. Or, and this one I really struggle with. This is when I know I've got too much going on cognitively. I know you. I've seen you in trainings. I've seen you at various social situations. We run into each other. I'm with someone, and I cannot remember your name. Mm-hmm. And it's right here. I always say it's like the file. It's forward. It's right there. And it actually starts to hurt my brain to try to access it. That's what we mean by the brain fog. So how do we cognitively take care of ourselves, right? So the physical stone in the cairn isn't just the body, right? It's also cognitive, and it's also your emotional well-being, right? And we're going to talk more specifically and in depth about emotional well-being and intelligence as it relates to your emotions when we come into the next section, which is on how do you manage yourself. And some of the tools that we use in the signature series of mindfulness meditation series that you all went through, I'll be reminding you of as a way of creating within yourself that beautiful sense of equanimity of the mind, which is an evenness and a steadiness, so that lots of things can be happening around you, but nothing is creating turbulence in that beautiful sense of calmness and ease in the mind. So, how do we manage on a daily basis, taking care of the physical, taking care of the cognitive, and taking care of the emotional? I want to give you a tool, and I really want you to consider using this. Increasingly, we are seeing more and more literatures addressing how absolutely essential it is to to have a morning routine. My mother always said, you make your bed in the morning as a way of setting your day. And that stayed with me. And as much as I hated it as a kid, and we were really young as she was having us make our bed, she didn't much care how it looked, but just that we had the ritual of making the bed in the morning. And even as an adult, I still do that. If I don't make the bed, I have a different kind of day. So the alarm goes off. I want you to think about, upon the moment of waking, to be mindful of, what is my first thought? Did we already talk about this last time? No? Do you know how 98% of people respond to that question? What is my first thought?
Is that an okay? Is that an okay
Yeah,
thought?
that summarizes all of it, right? As someone said in a recent training, my first thought is, oh shit, really? Are you kidding me? It's that time, right? So we want to start being very careful. We don't want to start the day with that, but we do. Okay. I want to make a distinction really quickly between what are known as micro stressors and macro stressors. These exist in life, right? Now, a macro stressor is something really big. A macro stressor is you just got a diagnosis, or someone you love got a diagnosis, or you're having massive financial stress, or you've got some sort of crisis going on with your child, or some kind of really big crisis going on in your group or team that's going to have implications for your productivity. That's a macro stressor. Micro stresses happen all day long, okay? Each of us in this room has what we call our own stress threshold. When these micro stressors start to stack up, and they stack up really, really quickly, you're going to reach your threshold. When I reach my threshold, that means that I'm already set up. I'm already primed for high reactivity. I'm already primed to go off the beam if I'm triggered. In other words, I don't have a lot of reserves available to cope skillfully with something that comes my way. And many things are going to come your way, okay? So think about the morning routine. You wake up and all of the various micro stressors that can occur. I love this example. So last night, you decide, everybody's talking about this Netflix series. Anyone have one in mind? Just toss out a name.
Blacklist.
Blacklist. Is it a series?
Yeah.
Okay, so Paige is telling me about Blacklist. So last night I'm thinking, I want to wind down a little bit. I think I'm going to tune into an episode. One episode, because sleep is really important to me. I function best when I've got, my
Same.
7 to 9 hours.
Same.
Suddenly I'm in, oh my God, just one more episode. Now I'm on 2. Now I'm on 4. Now I'm on 5. And suddenly it's 2 a.m. I'm already I'm setting up my day tomorrow for many micro stressors. Micro stressor number 1, the alarm goes off, right? Think about the nature of your alarm. I'm not going to get into this, but there are lots of other substitutions for that. We are not meant to wake up that way. We are not meant to wake up. Now, I don't recommend that you wake up with the sun, because we've got to get places. Micro stress number 1, that the sound of that alarm physically charges us, right? And then sometimes emotionally, like, oh shit, it's time. Could this be even possible? So you're like, I'm hitting snooze. I can't believe it. I should not have watched all that Netflix last night. So micro stress number 2, I'm pressing snooze. I'm already thinking about, but this might make me late. I'm already badgering myself because I watched too many Netflix, right? Alarm goes off again, right? Even I fall back to sleep for 8 minutes or however long it is. Hear it again, right? Here we go. There's another microaggression number 4. And then I decide, you know what? I better look at email real quick. I'm in the bed. Better look at email real. Oh my God, I can't believe this message came in last night and I didn't see it, indicating some sort of thing that I've got to deal with as soon as I get to work that I don't have time for. Do you see? I'm gonna hop on social media. I can't believe the comment that person made about that photo that I posted last night. What is she thinking, right? You see? So by the time I'm in my car, and now I am late, and I'm speeding to work, by the time I get to work, I've experienced 15 micro stressors. And 15, for me, it's gonna be different for everybody, already has me at my threshold. And it's 9 a.m. or earlier. Now, I am not now in any way, shape, or form primed to come into my life, to come into that day from a responsive mindset. Consider your morning routine as having 3 M's associated with it. I love like acronyms, right? Or just working with letters. M, morning. Can you? Is it possible for you to include these 3 things at the start of each day before you get in your car to come to work? A moment of mindfulness, a moment of some sort of movement, and a moment where you are actively choosing your mindset or feeding your mindset. Now, you might look at all this and I'll be sitting here saying, no, full body, no, I cannot do all of that. Because when we see all of these things, we're thinking, oh, that mindfulness, that might mean I have to sit in meditation for 30 minutes. Nope. Movement, I can't get to the gym before work. Mindset, don't have time for that. I don't even know what that means. I don't have time for that, right? In my own life, this means I get up at 5:30. But I have a diabetic dog, so I have to get up at 5:30. But that's been a benefit to me because I can fit these things in. So I can move through these things in about 40 minutes, but that's me. My sister would look at this and say, no freaking way, right? I have 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes for this. So what might the mindfulness be? Set your things down. 4% away. Just uncross your legs and put your feet on the floor, hip width apart. Maybe sit up just a little taller, but keep that spine nice and relaxed. Close your eyes if you'd like. And the first thing that I want you to do is to just feel your feet on the floor. Feel your bottom in this chair. And feel your shoulders relax. And the next thing I want you to do is to be very aware of the sensation of this chair that's holding you up. Maybe you're aware of the sensation of the cushion at your back. Maybe you're aware of the sensation of your arms resting on the arms of the chair, if that's where they are. And in this now moment, in this body sitting in this chair, in this room, everything's okay. And just for the next few moments, I just want you to tend to your breath, the sensation of the air coming in. And when you exhale, let that exhalation be just a little bit longer. Aware that you are sitting in this body. Aware that you are safe in this room. Knowing that that exhalation just a little bit longer is just inviting your central nervous system to calm down. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Two minutes, 3 steps. Step 1, locate yourself in your body. Does anyone remember where I told you, guided you to look or feel? Where do we go first? Feet, and then to butt, right? So locate in the body first. Start with your body. Your body's with you all the time. All the time. You always have your body. Locate yourself in your body. Step number 2, locate yourself in the surrounding. What does this chair feel like against your body? And a really important cue, in this now moment, in this body, in this chair, in this room, everything is okay. There's not an emergency in here. In this moment, everything is okay. And then finally, a little trick with the breath. Do you remember?
Exhaling deeper.
Longer. Lengthen it out. Because we know that when we lengthen the exhalation, we can always cue the central nervous system to kind of come down in all of its frantic activity. You really want to bring yourself down if you're all charged up and your energy is scattered everywhere. Call myself back to myself, to this chair, this moment. Everything is fine. 2 minutes. So body, surroundings, lengthen. Believe it or not, this very, very brief mindfulness meditation, highly recommended for kids because it's easy. And it really trains kids into this understanding that in this now moment, in this chair, in these surroundings, everything is okay. Okay? So for my sister, who's like on the go constantly, very difficult to settle, that's just 2 minutes. Movement. Does movement mean I have to go to the gym? No, it can. But moving your body. So I have one of those mini trampolines. So this morning, that's all I had time for, was just 100 jumps. Just in these clothes, just 100 jumps. That takes, I should have timed it, under 2 minutes. That's just movement. Driving here, feeling a little bit of anxiety, shake your hand, because I have the other hand on the wheel. Then shake the other hand. Does anyone know why the shaking matters? The shaking of the hand, I promise you. If you're like, yeah, I'm charged up, stress hormones going. Any ideas? What am I doing? Shaking it off, shaking it out, like the animal in the wild, right? Look this up. Stressed animal in the wild who goes frozen, the opossum, right? In the moment of the, well, let's see, what might want to eat the possum?
My dog.
The dog is coming. The opossum senses it, sees it, plays dead. They play dead so well. It's so authentic. They're not even like secreting hormones of life that the predator will pass by, because the predator does not want to eat something that's already dead. Rabbits do this. The opossum does this. Probably the most, and I don't recommend watching this, disturbing portrayal of this, polar bears who were in the midst of the hunt of hunters. When the threat has passed, the animal will get up and shake they almost look like they're having convulsions. That's why it's hard to watch the polar bear do this. They're shaking off the stress hormone because they know, I don't need this anymore. It doesn't behoove me to have this anymore. And then they go on their merry way. And they don't go home to their parents and say, I need to sign up for 5 years of therapy as a result of that episode. No, it's gone. And the difference, we don't do that. We don't do that intentionally anyway. How do you shake it off? It has to go somewhere. It can't stay in you. If it stays in you, you're setting yourself up. You're creating an optimal environment for all kinds of things to go awry in the body and in the mind. So can you implement a movement? What if it's just you're standing in your kitchen and it's 10 body squats? Right? Or you go for a walk or whatever it is, can you set up your day where there's some kind of movement? And sometimes it is driving to work and shaking. Don't forget the shaking. Hold on to something. Shake it out here. You can do your whole body. Okay?
Christy, can I just mention?
Yeah.
I teach a class at Good Shepherd Academy, and we have a group of cognitively and emotionally disabled kids. So a lot of kids with severe, diagnoses, autistic kids, all different disabilities. And this has been such an effective practice for them. And so now the teachers are implementing the absorption practice, is what we call it, because it helps them just calm and sit and learn and focus. And so it's something that you can use with your toddlers even, whether or not there's, obviously there doesn't have to be a disability, but when we're just trying to get them to be still, right? And they have all this energy, right? So we could use it ourselves and we could teach it to the children in our lives.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's coming over here. Driving, don't do this with both hands as you're driving. But, and really try to let the wrists be very loose. Just really don't worry. Just shake it out. However, and again, whatever works for you, but is there something you can do in the morning just for a minute, right? And then the mindset is really about choice. And mindset is, what kind of mind do I want to have today as I move through my day? And really thinking about, and I know I talked about this last time, what are you taking in? What are you ingesting? I think I told you I made a decision several months ago to get rid of Sirius radio because I was listening to the news all the time and I was getting to my destination like that, right? So I'm a big fan of podcasts. So every morning as I'm going through my morning routine, like dressing, makeup, all of that, making breakfast, I'm often listening to something that's inspiring my mindset. Maybe for you it's music. But what is it? What can you implement in the morning? For some people, it's a quiet time of reading, even if it's just 3 pages of something that is inspiring to you, something that is growing you forward. When you're in the car driving from your home, start thinking about what am I thinking about? And what mindset am I bringing into my workplace? I don't know what your individual mindsets are because I'm not a mind reader, but I can tell you that your mindset affects me. So whomever you are in interaction with, your mindset, whatever it is, affects them. And in some ways, and at some points, it's rather contagious. So for anyone who's a leader or a manager, your mindset is contagious. Those you lead pick up on it. Okay? So this is one way, one really, really quick way that we can handle that stone that's labeled as physical in your notes. But we really want to add to that stone cognitive and emotional, because these are ways of taking care of 3 aspects of who we are that are intricately connected. when I don't feel cognitively well, it affects my physical body, it affects my emotional state. When I don't feel emotionally well, it's going to affect the physical and the cognitive. When I don't feel physically well, it's going to affect my mindset, my cognitive abilities, and how I feel emotionally. Okay? So I'm going to, in the email that I send you to support today's session, because this is not in your packet, because I just decided this morning to add this, I'm going to remind you of the 3 M's for the morning routine. Okay. So the next thing that I want to tackle that's here in your Karen you might be asking, why in the heck is this here? Financial wellness, financial well-being. One of the things that we know about money and the role that money plays in our lives, money is a necessity. The degree to which people stress about money, the degree to which money is a stressor in the lives of individuals is phenomenal. I mean, it's monumental. And there may be very real reasons why money is a stressor. When you think about your history, you can probably locate, going through grad school, my diet consisting of ramen noodles and canned tuna, right? Because I had to make certain decisions about money that was not the best diet, right? I'm sure that affected me in a lot. It's probably still affecting me. But we want to think about, in my life, am I taking care of this stone? And most people that have heard this Karen workshop will say, even if there's ample amounts of money, it's still stressful. That sometimes it's stressful to have too much. We don't know what to do with it, or we're nervous it's going to go away, right? So there's deprivation. And then there's this abundance stress. So I just want you to start thinking about, I don't want to do training on this, but I want you to start thinking about your own life and where you are in terms of that stone. For some people, the financial stone is everything. It impacts every decision they make. I may have mentioned this book I've been reading. It's called Reboot, The Art of Growing Up. And it's actually a book on leadership. And the author is Jerry Colonna. And what I love about the book, and I was really surprised by this, the first chapter is about money. Because he wants to he's like it's like a dirty word. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about the stress that we can feel about it. But we've got to get ourselves together on that front so that we're better able to handle any kind of stress that we're living around it. And part of that process is, am I carrying around limiting or unchallenged beliefs about money? And if you are, chances are they're rooted in your childhood. If you want to really get a good understanding, an awareness about the role that money plays in your life and the amount of stress it causes, or maybe it doesn't cause any stress, think about how money was talked about, how it was used, how it was valued in the place where you grew up. Three things contribute. This has been studied. There are 3 things that contribute gravely to the demise of a marriage or a long-term committed relationship. One is we have very, very different values about intimacy. How often, how to express it. We have an inability to handle conflict effectively. So the same stuff keeps coming up over and over again. And money. Competing, differing, contrasting values about what money is going to mean in the life of our family, in the life of our couplehood. next time you hear a story about a relationship ending, listen for, well, what were the reasons? And see if you can trace them back to intimacy, inability to resolve conflict effectively, and money. So we're asked in terms of emotional intelligence, regardless of where we're at, whether there's a sense of deprivation or there's a sense of abundance or there's just a sense of I didn't receive a good training in how to deal with money, like I have ample money but I don't pay my bills on time or whatever it is, how can you come into an ease, a better ease about money? Can you very gently explore your money habits? I recently did this exercise and I was like, why am I so resistant to this? Why am I so resistant to doing a line by line monthly budget report? Like, where do I spend money? And it was everything from, damn, I spend $20 a week at Starbucks. Or how much it costs to get my nails done every month, right? Like little things like that that you feel ashamed about, right? It's okay that this is what I spend on taxes, this is what I spend on gas, every week, but then you get to the things that, like, oh, that Ann Taylor credit card bill, oh, I had no idea that that's what I spend each month. But can you do it in a really gentle way? How is your past impacting how you deal with money today? I always say I came from the deprivation consciousness of money. We did fine as a family, but my mother made us believe we were poor. And her philosophy was, yeah, we have what we have, but guess what? You might not be here tomorrow. I remember being a very young child and going to bed at night thinking, are we gonna have breakfast tomorrow? There was no reason to think that. But as I got older, I learned why my mom felt that way. Her parents, who came out of the Depression. So when my grandfather died about 7 years ago, we find stashes of money in the basement. Crazy amounts of money. Because he didn't believe in the bank. And my mother was like, oh my God, she's completely redoing her whole childhood. I can't believe you would go to my grandparents to eat lunch and she would serve you, she would wash those styrofoam containers that meat is on. You know what I'm talking about? I don't even know if they sell meat like that anymore. She would wash, that's how she would serve lunch. And we're like, oh my God, really poor. So what does it mean? So, now my mom's been gifted with all this money, but I see her doing the same thing. Well, we have to have something to give our children after we die. And we're like, Mom, enjoy your life. We don't need you to leave money for us. How is her past impacting how she relates to money today when for the first time in my parents' life, they don't have to worry about money? And it's quite possible that they likely never had to worry about it. You see? This is a really good question. What is your present factual situation absent all fear and drama? What is your present factual money situation absent fear and drama? When we can sit with it in that mindset and really see these are the facts. This is where I'm at, and this is what I need to do. And then finally, and this is important, and I use the word brave because people get really charged up and afraid around money. What is one brave thing I can do today? One brave thing I can do today. I don't need a $3.45 Starbucks iced tea. I really started thinking about that. Like, how much does it cost to brew your own iced tea? What's one brave thing you can do this week, this month, 3 months, 6 months, over the course of a whole year. Just small steps. So that you're not avoiding that stone and the Karen. You're dealing with it, but you're dealing with it absent fear and drama. Okay? And that's in your packet to start thinking about these questions. This is what it means to do a financial inventory very mindfully, dealing with what is here and now without it having to be any different. Environment, that's also a stone. This can mean a lot of different things, but in a nutshell, we as human beings will thrive in environments that feel safe, where we are acknowledged, comfortable, where we feel good, connected, and inspired. When we think about environment, we typically tend to think about the spaces that we occupy, the space of our home, the space of our work, the places that we spend the most time. But you also want to think about environment in terms of environments that are created due to the people that you're around. I might have a beautiful home with everything that I love, and I chose the paint colors and the furniture and all of that, like a beautiful home. But inside that home, I don't feel safe. Inside of that home, I feel invisible. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel good. I don't feel connected or inspired. So what's the point of the house? So we want to look at the notion of environment. Where do I spend my time? Thinking about your relationships, you can think about your couple relationship as an environment. What is the environment here? And think about environment in terms of climate. If you could choose any climate to live in and to work in, what would it be? Meaning, like, tangibly. I'm pointing at that picture. Yeah. What would that be? Be specific.
Happy.
Happy? Because what would the physical nature of it be, though? More sunshine than
Yeah, sunshine, laughter, climate control.
More warmer or cooler or
Just temperament, just nice, good.
like San Diego?
Yeah.
Rarely
yeah,
changes
there you
all
go.
year round, right?
Sure.
So this is what we're getting at here. And the reason that I use the analogy of physical climate is that we know within ourselves that if we could uproot ourselves and live and work in the climate that we best resonate with, and maybe it's here and maybe it's not, right? Maybe it's here, maybe it's not. We would thrive. So the question when we talk about environment and even a relational environment is this a climate within which I thrive? So I thrive in warmer temperatures, but not too hot. I thrive in environments where mostly there's sun. I thrive in environments where there's water nearby. So when you think about that, think about where do I thrive? When I visit this place, I just feel like I really thrive. And can I replicate this notion of thriving environmentally in the spaces within which I work, and in the space within which I live, and in the spaces within which I relate, right? So some groups and teams, I know you've all had this experience of being in a very toxic group or team where you're like barely making progress. You might get the job done, but every time you have a group or team meeting, you dread it. And it is because, it's not necessarily because of one person or two people, it's because the dynamic that exists there is toxic. And it's contributing to this climate that we just don't like. People will leave their jobs more often than not because they don't like the physical job, the actual job, but because they don't like the climate. Oftentimes we hear, in these literatures, workplace culture being the term. I like the term workplace climate because it's a better way to think about, do I thrive here or am I just surviving? slogging along, right? I'm not going to get a lot of productivity and effectiveness from an employee who feels that way, or from a group or team that feels that way. So do I feel safe, acknowledged, not invisible, right? Relational climates where I've heard this so many times. I don't think I exist for my spouse. He doesn't look at me, he looks through me. Or I feel like I'm invisible in this relationship. Comfortable, good, connected, and inspired. So can you create, this is what you want to think about, vital spaces, vital relational spaces, vital physical spaces. Can you create, even in your workplace, a sense of home in the real sense, right? Home is to be a refuge. Home is to be the place that I return to in order to rejuvenate. One of the first things I said to Candy when I came here was that as soon as you walk through the lobby, and I think this is probably very intentional, you created an intentional workplace climate. Walking through some of the offices, seeing in the corner of one of your offices games, right? A stack of games. There's intentional care taken here. And even in the smaller spaces within which you work, your office or cubicle or whatever it is, can you bring to that space things that make you feel vital, things that support and inspire you? Does that make sense? All right, you've got to take care of the environmental piece. It's one of the reasons why, people will say, you walk into their home and you think, my God, this is an awesome home. Why are they selling it? Why are they leaving? And they'll say something like, it just didn't feel right for us. There's something about this space that felt really off. Or a family whose home environment physically feels too small. It's like, oh, we outgrew this house. We need a bigger space. So you can think about it very tangibly at a very literal physical level, but you also want to think about it in terms of this notion of climate, and you also want to think about this at a relational level. What is the environment of this relationship that I live in? Creativity. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I could, but this is a really important stone in the cairn. Does anyone here know about what grade your creativity starts to get really shut down? When you think about our school system, especially like the public school system, there is a grade where suddenly things get serious. Unless your child's in a really innovative school that knows this stuff.
6th grade.
Third.
Why did you say third? Do you remember, what made you say that? It's true, third grade.
I think it's the point that kids start going from just the innocent kindergarten, first graders learning slightly about the world, and that's when they start to shut down like that.
That's part of it, but part of it is linked to, actually a large part of it is linked to our IQ and what they're trying to develop and urge forward in terms of IQ. Does anyone remember what tends to happen? And sometimes now it's happening a little sooner, but something really important happens in around third grade in terms of what you're learning mathematically. Multiplication, division, the higher order math stuff starts to happen between 2nd and 3rd grade. In my generation, it was 3rd grade. The curriculum changes, becomes more rigorous. And there is this sense that life's gotten real right now, so put away the toys and games. This is not playtime. There's no nap in 3rd grade, at least not to my knowledge. There should be a nap, like now, in our lives. Here's what we know about human beings. From the time you were born instinctively with a creative urge. That never goes away. Never. when you think about if you have children or you're around children and you think about all the stuff they brought home, like even to the point where you're like, how much more glitter can I have in this house, right? Or they're making slime and it's everything, you get frustrated, but it's like such a special time. And they're pretty uninhibited about it. Or it's Christmas and they've unpacked all the boxes and you've got, you spent thousands of dollars on all these toys and you're like, our kids are playing with the boxes, right? So we start to see at a really, really young age, kids starting to express their creativity. Watch a toddler trying to put things together, even in ways that you wouldn't think of. Watch a child put something together or see. I was always amazed. I felt like I would probably learn more than my son did when he was really into Legos, especially when real creativity starts when they've built the starship, the 10,000 piece Star Wars starship that you spent $500 on. They build it, and then it all comes crashing down, and then they lost the directions, and then they start taking the pieces. Or you've got the toy box, and at the bottom of the toy box there's like 1,000 pieces of mismatched Legos that might drive you crazy, but you pour them out on the floor and suddenly they're building by themselves their own things. That doesn't leave us, it gets squelched. We thrive when we can touch into things that make us feel awestruck. We thrive when we are in the experience of wonder, surprise, flow, vitality, rest. This is really important, and a sense of ease. 5 years ago, the adult coloring books came out. Anyone here have an adult coloring book? And my mom said to me recently, oh, didn't that die down? And I said, no, go to Barnes & Noble. There's adult coloring books everywhere. And I really didn't buy into it, but given the work that I do, people were giving me coloring books all the time. So I thought, I'll give this a shot. And one night I poured a glass of wine and I started coloring. And I was astounded by the sense of ease, inspiration, and rest that it created. I was like, there is something here. And what I remembered was how much I colored as a kid. And I was like, this is why I colored as a child. It made me feel good. It made me feel good, not because of what I was creating. That had nothing to do with it. It had everything to do with the fact that it calmed me down. And I felt that again. I reconnected to that again as an adult. So the rest part is really important. Even drawing, whatever you do, you'll see, you may have been that note taker in school. How many of you doodled? Yeah. The doodling can be experienced as a form of stress reduction. You're taking in the information and you're simultaneously doodling. The inspiration piece related to the coloring, or just sort of that kind of artistic expression, creative expression, whatever you're creating something, it doesn't matter, arts, crafts, whatever it is that in the act of doing it, you're so present. What I noticed is, in that kind of presence, the answer to a question I was holding would come through. A certain kind of insight would come through. Why? Because I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't trying to figure it out. Professionally speaking, and I imagine here, in order to just keep moving and growing, there's got to be ongoingly creativity that's going to lead to innovation, a different way of doing things, a different way of marketing things, a different way of selling things. Here's what we know about innovation. Innovation cannot happen absent creativity. You can be creative all day long and not innovate, right? Creativity can stand on its own. But when you want to innovate, you can't do it unless creativity is present. Innovation builds on creativity. And we know that the brain cannot have a creative thought or it's not going to be a strong, good creative thought if it is in a state of stress, overwhelm, negativity. So as often as possible, can you engage in some kind of activity that you believe is an expression of creativity? And if you're thinking, gosh, I don't have anything like that in my life, I don't even know where I would start. Ask yourself, what did I love when I was 5? What did I love to do when I was 8? Because chances are there are signs there of what put you into that state of vitality, rest, inspiration, ease, surprise, wonder, and awe. It is so critical. And for those of you who are leading groups and teams, it's really important that that's on your radar, that they need that. When we talk about what's called the innovator's mindset, or the innovator's DNA, there's been a lot of studies about this, like what makes someone innovate at a really high level? Creativity is there, right? It has to be. But there are all of these tools, tips, and strategies that you can utilize to grow an innovative mindset. But one of the things that comes up over and over and over again, and I'm just thinking about this now, is the significance of travel in creating an innovative mindset. When you can get yourself on a regular basis out of your regular surrounding, your usual surrounding where you're seeing the same people, seeing the same things, you exponentially increase your capacity for creativity and innovation. There might be a color that you saw when you were on a visit to the Mediterranean, some shade of the water in the late day afternoon sun that has stayed with you and then becomes part of a promotional package on your website. Think about the exposure. You were in Cape May recently, right? And you were at have you ever gone to that fall festival before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were in a different atmosphere. And regardless of where it is that we take ourselves, there's typically a learning. You know, you see things, you see people, you see ways, you hear languages that just aren't in your everyday life. So one of the highest forms of expressing creativity is taking yourself on really interesting trips. This is the place to do that, right?
I just wrote down those words again because I used to use those words in my presentation and I forgot about them. And so
Which one? Which words?
Awe-inspiring, isn't it wonderful? Do you ever have those moments where you just saw something so beautiful it took your breath away?
Mm-hmm.
When, you know, and the wonder and surprise. So thank you for reminding me that those words are powerful.
Yeah, good. And remind them of that often. We can be so driven and narrowly focused on the job that we forget all of these resources that reside outside of the narrow focus. Okay. Now on your Karen, there is, and by the way, on the back table, and you're all taking this, even if you don't use it, you can give it to someone you love. There's a coloring page for everyone. Okay. And it's on good paper. And go out and get yourself really good colored pencils. Seriously. The soft ones.